everybody, whether you're on the East Coast, West Coast, or around the world. This is Coast to Coast. Everybody's here. How's it going?
It's going.
I still feel like a champion.
Perfect.
Yeah.
I mean, I would hope so. It's only been a couple of days.
Yeah. They had announced that the parade is going to be on Friday,
Yep.
and I am just trying to gather all the details on my side on how I am going to be uh, celebrating this parade.
I got you.
So
It
I, I,
starts
I
at, it starts at 11 Eastern, right?
correct.
Yep.
Now, what does that mean? It means that if you want to get anywhere close to anything, you got to be up there at like 5, 6 o'clock in the morning. You know what I mean? Which is going to be a very, very, very long day. Uh, I would
Yep.
suggest if you're going to do that at 5, 6 o'clock in the morning that you wear Depends because, I mean, where you going to the bathroom? Where you going? You ain't going nowhere. It's like, hey, listen, I can imagine that if you're going to be out there at a parade, you're going to be drinking and it's going to suck. So I guess I would figure that out ahead of time, you know, or I mean I've heard of other people doing the the cup tube situation, like
Okay.
which is not a bad idea either. You know what I mean? So that if you got to go, it just runs right down your leg through the tube, and that's that. But you better hope it's airtight because you don't want dripping. You know what I mean? That sucks if you pee your pants and you got to sit out there in the cold. And these are all tricks of the trade. You know what I mean? I've already told people I'm like, listen, it's these are things that you have to do. Like if you were going to bring kids with you, like to the parade, and you want to get in early, bring one of those bathroom tents and set the bathroom tent up at a drain.
Oh, yeah.
You know, and that's how you do that. Just set it right up on the drain, and because everybody's going to use it, you're not going to be able to just keep it to yourselves. Everybody's going to wind up using it, and that means women going to have to pop a squat. There ain't going to be no bucket there. No toilet seat, none of that. You gotta just take advantage. You can have toilet paper up in there just to help them, whatever. But you better make it happen that way, and but drain right at the drain. End of story. Bang, done. One little
Yep.
tent, bang, done. Other than that, doing parades is not so easy. You have to have preparation for this. In Philadelphia, they are going to limit the amount of stops that SEPTA is going to do. What they've learned from the last parade was that everybody gets on early, and then the trains go right past stops where it's wall to wall people. It's like 30 people thick because you can't, it's already full. So go to where it's the furthest back spots in the train and wait to get on because it's going to go every 8 minutes. Uh,
Mhm.
it's going to be. I kind of suspect that we'll have 1 million people there.
Yeah.
So
Oh, yeah.
uh, I
There's no doubt in my mind.
I don't know what I will be doing, and I have a little bit of a dilemma actually. So let me ask you guys, and we'll ask the people watching right now as well. I I've gone to every game. Obviously, there's 21 games I've been to.
Yep.
My children, my son and daughter are not sports fans at all. They are not sports fans. Uh, However, they are fans of the Philly sports guy. They have no choice because I'm their dad. So and my daughter is not really interested in going to the parade. She's not very big in crowds, but my son is interested in going, and my son's girlfriend is also interested in going.
Okay.
Now, uh, now if I wind up on a float, it's possible I might be able to get a plus one who would be my son. And I'd probably paint his face just because like it would be cool, whatever, and he would have to leave his girlfriend at home. Like, and I'd feel bad for the fact that he has to leave his girlfriend at home, but I got to do what I got to do there. If I'm walking the parade, now he's 16, she's 17,
Okay.
and uh, it's a 2 mile walk. First off, I know a 16-year-old kid can do that 2-mile walk. That's not a problem. And I was thinking that I would actually get some big red tape and tape around their arms. Like I have like monster red tape that's real big, put it around their arm and put like almost like press on it so that they could be my camera guys. They could be
Oh,
my
okay.
people for that. And take pictures of everything that's going on, or be the people that take the pictures for me walking the route. One, do you think that that's a feasible thing? Now, my son, listen, my son is not the biggest of kids. He's 16 years old, weighs about 130 pounds, maybe soaking wet. With the towel around him, soaking wet, and you know, and his girlfriend is like 5'2", 100 nothing pounds, trying to do that, and walk 2 miles
Okay.
in the
Well, they're
cold.
small humans. I got you.
Yeah, walking in the cold, following around the Philly sports guy, going back and forth. Like I'd be being a pinball and taking pictures with everybody. Like, cause I'd be going down there very early. Like I like leave at 7 o'clock in the morning to get down there, hopefully by somewhere around 7:30, 8 o'clock, and start walking the route because in 3 hours the buses are going to start, and
Mhm.
I need to be well ahead
Yeah.
because some of those buses, like they could come quick, they could come slow. My expectation is that they'll move at about 3 miles an hour, 3 to 5 miles an hour, and they would get to me in about an hour if I started 3 hours ahead because I'm walking, but I'm also stopping to take pictures and everything.
Yeah.
And I'm wondering if that's enough time. And secondly, whether I should actually bring them with me or not.
For what you do, probably not. Um, like it, I don't know that they would have the the most fun experience that way, but
Well, you know what? So the good part about this is that I would not be out in the crowd. I would be inside the
yeah, that's
barricade.
true. You'd be in the path.
So because I can't be in the crowd, there's no way that I could be in the crowd. I would not make it anywhere. Like I'd get stuck and then I'd be stuck there and things like that. But
Yep.
So they would also have to be out in with me. They couldn't walk the inside because then, I mean, obviously, I'm going to be nervous on where's my son. You know what I mean? My son's not been in any situation like this before, where there's going to be a million people around at once. Um, you know what I mean? And not that I don't think he couldn't handle himself. You know what I mean? He's
Sure.
16 years old. He's a smart kid. But again, I don't want to. It's a very difficult type of situation, like in terms of how I think about what's going to happen here. No, Joe, not at the moment. I wouldn't be riding with the players anyways. That's not what it would be. It would be on a float with the staff, maybe. Like that's
Mhm.
kind of how I would look at that. Um, I mean, there's very few people that have done all the games. I mean, I got to imagine there's somebody else besides me that's done 21 games this year. That's done every game. I don't know. I haven't met them yet. I'd love to meet them because that is. Now I'm not going to leash him. He's not a dog.
That's why I started laughing as soon as I saw it.
But it's like I said, it's a little bit of a different scenario. Yeah, I that's why I'm saying if they were on the inside and they were camera guys, like if they were the camera people, where
Mhm.
one was taking pictures for me and the other one was taking pictures for somebody else, that could be amazing. That could be a really fun montage to show
Mhm.
up. Yeah, I can't tell them to do anything. You know what I mean? I can suggest, and I've spoken to somebody within the organization, and I'm not going to push. You know what I mean? This is something that they have to do on their own. That I can't be. Hey, I'm whatever. And don't worry, I'll be down in Tampa soon, Robert. I'm coming down there for. I'll be down there actually for St. Patrick's Day. So definitely going to be down there for that. Yes, that's why I will be down there for St. Patrick's Day. So, but it's like I said, parades are not simple to navigate. Obviously, it's like you gotta be able to do all the things you need to do, and so on and so forth. And like I said, if I'm on a float, then it's a matter of if I'm on a float, and am I going to be able to have somebody else come on the float with me, like
Yeah.
my son coming on the float. I mean, nobody's seen him at a game before. Not at an Eagles game. He has painted up his face before, and we have done that before, but he's not been the Philly sports kid with me at an Eagles game. So it would be a little bit of a different scenario, but
I gotcha.
yeah, I understand, Paul. We're doing a pre-parade party in my living room, and for anybody who wants to fly in, if they get a hold of me ahead of time, then I might be able to commandeer some space in my living room, in my apartment, bring an air mattress. I'm going to play that guy for everybody. The after party, Joe, was great. It was kind of cool. I got there late, obviously. I mean, everything ended at 10. I didn't get there till 1. So it was at the hotel. So they were there for a little while. And then most of the players were leaving. They went on Bourbon Street to hang out for a little while. I know I wound up on Bourbon Street around 3:30 in the morning, and I hit a wall. Oh, that wall got hit really hard. Like, so hard that I'm standing up.
Wall.
I mean, I didn't really drink very much. And I'm standing there at a table, and I'm starting to fall asleep, and my legs are starting to give away because I'm falling asleep at the table like that. It was like, I'm like, oh, the guy comes over, and I'm like, listen, I'm sober as can be. I just hit the wall. I'm waiting for my friends to close out and get out of here. Trust me, I'm trying to get out. I don't want to be here falling asleep because I know what that's like falling asleep at a club. And the guy was like, I get it. Like he understood. I was not slurring my words. I wasn't doing any of that. I was just like, I'm just so exhausted. I just hit the wall. I've not been drinking. I'm not drinking anymore. Here's some water. You know what I mean? Like I was saying all of the right things to be okay, to not be escorted out of the bar right then and there, to make that all happen. But
Yeah.
but it's it's going to be fun. It's going to be a fun week. This is we put up the new banner. Anybody who knows me knows that the win is never really 100% official until the banner is hanging at Dolan's Bar, and we had a banner ceremony. We actually have one of the Lombardi trophies, with us. So I'm going to have to order a couple of trophies. I got to get my own little trophy case going right now. So. So, Joe, I've been talking to Jay. Jay had to take a hiatus. We may have him back here. Yeah, we're I want to make sure that he's everything's doing good. He's doing all right. He's doing good. He's not very happy that the Eagles won the Super Bowl, as you can expect.
Yep.
So, but he'll be back sooner than later.
Yep.
So, but anyways, so yeah, I mean, it's been lots of fun. My thoughts on Moore going to the Saints. I hope they give him enough opportunity. He was offered a good amount of money to stay, which was a surprise. Yeah. I think he was offered more money to stay than he is getting as a head coach. But it's his dream to be a head coach.
So, I mean, that's the thing, right? Like you take your shot while you got it.
So I hope they give him a real good opportunity. And, I will say that everybody has been listening to this show because it came out yesterday amongst all the shows. And we've been saying it for a month now, that I thought about Frank Reich. And I thought Frank Reich would come back, right? We were the first ones to announce it. I know I was talking about it left and right while they finally started to bring it out. Like, oh, Frank Reich coming back. I'm like, you guys are finally listening to my show. You know what I mean? I get it. And that's what happens. So, oh my God, I was hoping that you may have had that clip, the Dak clip.
So I don't have it yet. I will tomorrow.
Yeah,
will
that is
Hilarious.
hysterical. And I watched. I don't know if it was it wasn't part in the interruption, but it was one of those shows. And the one guy's sitting there and he's like, "Oh my God." And he's like, "Is his microphone on?" He didn't know what to say. And he goes, "I do not want to hear this from Dak right now. Like,
Yeah.
out of all the things in the world that I want to hear, I do not want to. Dak, you need to shut your mouth. This team just went to 3 Super Bowls in the last 7 years and won 2 of them. And
Yeah.
you can't get past the second round of the playoffs. Shut
Yep.
your mouth. You are not anywhere near what the Eagles are." That was
Yeah. Well, and then he even went on to say he's like, I would these comments if it was coming from Micah or a receiver or something like that. He's like, but coming from Dak, you can't say this.
No, because Dak's proven that he's not a big game quarterback on every occasion possible when he's had that opportunity.
right. I mean, he's had the opportunity. Hey, listen, let's slide late and then not be able to do another play. Let's have a bad game and then try to get some makeup points at the very end. I mean, it's like that's been the MO of them.
I just keep waiting for him to like Scooby-Doo style remove the mask and it's Romo.
But at least Romo showed up in prime time and on the playoffs.
It's
Sometimes
literally the
Prescott
same
can't
guy.
do that. At least Tony Romo actually had like some good playoff games. Like Dak Prescott can't even do that.
Yeah, I mean they didn't win any of them, but he had a couple of decent outings. They still found ways to lose those games.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah, and that's kind of it. It's just like you can't be talking like that. You cannot be talking like that. Like I get why he did. He's trying to energize his team, but your
Yep.
team's going to be decimated again. You're going to lose half the people in free agency, and then you're going to wind up like having just even more of a shell of a team. I know that Joe thinks that they're going to be right back in the mix of things here right now, but I tell you, Joe, I think that you guys are going to be fighting for third place in a big way against the Giants.
This isn't really a glowing endorsement. Trade him off.
For their number one pick, do you really
Never
believe
happened.
Dak Prescott is worth a number one pick? I mean, let's be for real. I mean, he was a 4th-round pick initially.
Yeah.
And listen, he's had a decent career. He's had a very decent career.
His contract isn't worth a one.
No.
That's the biggest thing. Like if he was getting 50, right? Then maybe you entertain that because he has had at least good regular seasons. But as the highest paid quarterback that can't win a playoff game, that's not worth a one.
Definitely not.
And that's going to be until he actually gets.
I'm not sure I'd give you a 3.
Yeah, that's kind of the thing I was thinking of. I'm like, is it worth a 3? It might be a 4 and a 7. Maybe just the 4.
And I'm making you pay some of his salary.
But I don't believe that's there's no chance that gets traded.
Yeah.
And listen, I am so happy that Jerry Jones is alive and well and kicking and doing his thing because he's going to get to
They're
witness
making the Cowboys suck.
get another year of I wish him all the best.
And as you can see, we lie on this show all the time.
No, I want nothing but health and good feelings for our man, Jerry Jones. Jerry Jones, live forever. Please get them blood transfusions. just the, I hope you found the fountain of youth. I hope you stay alive forever.
I mean, I like his
Outlive your
optimism on
kids.
that. I
Outlive
like,
the kids.
I like Joe's optimism there, but the problem is the Cowboys don't have the cap space to
Yeah,
go
exactly.
to go get a ton of good free agents. That's the issue. You can get free agents, but you're not going to get any of these high priced, like quality free agents because you don't have the cap space to do it.
Yeah, I don't even think you keep some of the free agents you have in the building already.
Yeah.
I mean, I think Micah's probably on his way out the door.
Well, he's got one more year left.
No, I know.
So,
But it doesn't appear that they're going to get it done. And so then if you are the Cowboys, do you try to trade him, right, with that final year on it, try and get something back? Because otherwise he's probably just walking out the door anyway.
Walking
So
out
if
there,
you trade him,
pieces.
like, where do you trade him? And like, who do you try to get back in return? Like I think out of the things that I think about, like, you need to trade him for draft picks. Obviously, you want to be able to get something for him. And is he worth it now? Like, he's still a great player, but I mean, since he started doing the podcast, I feel that he's lost a little luster on his game.
Okay. All right. I mean, someone would try it because some people are going to be looking at it as, has he lost some just because the Cowboys are falling off a cliff?
Well, yeah, but does that become, all right, I just don't want to play because our team stinks?
No, it's a bad look no matter how it plays out. But I think another team would give it a shot, right? Because there's always the, he's going to come to a new spot. He's going to be re-energized, whatever. So, like, someone would give a good draft pick for him.
So I'm looking at what Frankie's saying. I disagree with that, Frankie. Actually, Mahomes' contract is easily one of the better contracts in the league. He's because of the longevity, because of the endorsements he gets, he's able to be like Brady. He's able to be like Brady. He's able to say, you know what, restructure my contract and add another year or so, and defer that money and bring in some people. I think that you're going to have to see.
He did that before this season. He restructured again.
Right. So I think that you're going to see him restructure all the time. Like, he's going to have the ability to do that, and they're going to get hit one year, but it's going to be a year that maybe the year that Andy retires. I think that's where you take the massive hit. You're like, okay, well, let's try to run it back. Let's try to do it again while we have this guy here, and I'll keep deferring. And then ultimately, when Andy retires, let's take the big hit. Let's, have a lame duck coach who's not going to be able to do anything, and
just a one and done.
And reset. And then start to try to do this again and rebuild in that regard. Because the problem with them is that they have, it was glaring, the offensive line.
Oh, yeah.
Beyond everything else. Receivers come and go, like I said, and Andy's, and that team on the field reminded me a lot of the Eagles and during his run there from like 04 to 08. When they made it to the Super Bowl, like 05, 06, 07, 08. That's where I kind of believe that team, that's what that team looked like. Where the offensive line wasn't the greatest. They had some good pieces, but they weren't the greatest. And that, you had James, Thrash, and you had like, it was after T.O. So you were playing with not the greatest receivers of all time because you had a Donovan McNabb who was unhappy. You know what I mean? Who's like, who ran T.O. out of town in theory. You know what I mean? So I felt like they have to do They got to get a receiver who can actually catch the ball. And Xavier Worthy earned his pay. You know what I mean? I think
Oh
that
yeah.
he's going to be a good receiver.
Yep.
I think that you have Travis Kelsey, but you have to get a new tight end to be
Well,
able to follow.
you have
behind him.
Rashee Rice coming back too, because Rashee Rice tore his ACL in week 3, and up until that point, he was the leading receiver in the NFL. So those two guys will be the Chiefs' top weapons next year, and they're both technically still on rookie deals yet for the next several years. So they'll be set for that standpoint.
Right. And then you have Hunt that's going to be coming back. At least that'll
Well,
help.
and Kelsey came out and said that he's going to take some time and think about 2025. So if that's the case, I mean, does he want to come back knowing that he's probably not the same player he's been in years past, right? I mean, he looks like he's lost a step. He definitely, I mean, he just didn't have a good season overall. He just wasn't able to move as well as he had in the past. So do you think he takes advantage of all of the off the field stuff that's available to him now? Or do you think he comes back, finishes his last year in his contract, but accepts the fact that he's probably a diminished role moving forward?
I think he plays out the contract. Kelsey, I'm not going to necessarily call it in pride for the most part, but Kelsey's one of those guys that is not going to want to go out the way that game was on Sunday. If he's going to go out, he'd rather go out losing in competitive fashion as opposed to basically being non-existent in a Super Bowl, having your team get their brains kicked in from start to finish. That's why I think Kelsey will come back one more year and be like, yeah, I'm not going out like this. I'll play out my contract. Whatever happens this year happens.
So I listened to some of the clips that were put out by New Heights yesterday.
Okay.
And he took responsibility, saying that, hey, it's like I could have led, I could have been a better leader on this team. There were some small things, the small things that you need to do in a game like that, I was not doing. And because of that, that hurt the team. It hurt the team because I am looked at as a leader. And if I'm pouting, everybody's pouting. If I have my head down, everybody else has their head down because of that. And that's
And
there was
were
some of that.
Instances where he was giving up on plays. So one of them that comes to mind is the play that they fumbled, right? Where they ended up getting the ball back, but Mahomes fumbled. He was scrambling, and the guy that created the fumble was the guy that Kelsey should have ended up blocking, because he was the guy that was covering Kelsey. He's standing there close to the line of scrimmage, and he's just like, oh, what's he doing? And lets Mahomes run by him, doesn't make any effort on the defender. Defender hits him, knocks the ball free. Casey gets it back. But, I mean, at the end of the day, if your teammates see you not giving any effort on a play, I mean, he literally just stood there the whole play.
Joe,
it's a bad look.
He had to play like that too early in the second half too, where I don't remember who was blitzing, but it literally Kelsey got out of his stance, made a half-ass attempt to get a hand on the edge rusher, and then as soon as the edge rusher got by him, he's staring at him, he doesn't make an effort to just push him out of the way. He just lets him go and hit Mahomes.
Yeah. No, he wasn't trying to block at all, and that's why I say it makes you wonder: is he gonna be interested this offseason of getting back in shape? Because he didn't look like he was in shape most of this year either.
No, he didn't.
So is he committed to go back into that grind to try and be the guy that he's been, or do you hang him up?
I don't know. It's hard to give up like that. I mean, again, for a lot of different reasons, but we'll see. Well, I guess we'll find out. I think he's going to definitely come back this year, obviously, and we'll have one more year. Joe, listen, you're talking now like a Cowboys fan. There's no chance. I understand that it's been 20 years that we've had. It's been actually, I think, since 2004. So it's going on 21 years that we have not had repeats. But there's no chance.
Which is crazy.
Zero chance. I'm telling you that now. There's zero chance that the Dallas Cowboys win the division next year. There's a better chance for Washington. I will say that. But there's zero chance that the Cowboys win the division this year. And listen, I will put a whole trip. I get to Airbnb your house in Italy
Sheesh.
with my entire family. I'll bet that.
That being said, if you are a betting man, you can place a bet on that right here with Coast to Coast. QR code on the screen, up to 125% of your first 3 deposits, 10% bet guarantee if you happen to lose, which in that case you probably would. So take advantage of that. Again, use that QR code on the screen and bet alongside us here on Coast to Coast. And if you are in the Pacific Northwest, use this QR code here. Free 5-day pass, any of the 3 locations: Bellevue, Ballard, University Village, Pilates, Boot Camp, Yoga, Bar, and more. Find your edge at True Fusion Gym. seemed like a good way to try and get
Perfect
10% of his
segue.
money back, since he's trying to bet on something terrible.
Perfect. Yeah, it's a perfect segue.
So I've been asked about, all right, so what do we think about next year? Like how do the Eagles respond to next year?
Yeah.
And can they run it back? They are the youngest team, second youngest team in the league, which is great. That's amazing that they're able to do that.
Yep.
It was funny. I made a joke at the Super Bowl. It was like, when it's like, when the game was like over, but still like in the early fourth quarter, I'm like, we're going to have a terrible first round pick. We're going to have,
Sure.
the worst first round pick that you could have, because it's going to be number 32. And people laughed about that, obviously, because you don't really care. But in thinking about that, it's going to limit what you're going to be able to do. Like, so my thoughts is that they are probably going to trade out of that first round pick to be able to give somebody else the ability to do that and trade for future first round picks, because ultimately that 32nd pick is really only worth the contract.
Yeah.
You want to get that extra year on the contract, and that's the biggest deal of it. You want to have 5 years instead of 4.
Yep.
And that's the only reason why you'd want that 32nd pick. And do the Eagles need that 32nd pick? I don't know that they do. My expectation being is that they'll probably trade that one away and then come back in the second round, somewhere in the middle of the second round, and choose an offensive lineman or a defensive lineman. Because ultimately they got to start to find the replacement for Lane Johnson.
Mm-hmm.
Everybody else on that offensive line is fairly young, but you need to have somebody who is going to be able to. You need like that 3rd round or 4th round pick to be able to also be the guy who's going to fill in just in case somebody gets hurt, because offensive linemen get hurt frequently. You know what I mean? Them ankles are tough when you got 300 odd pounds going around that and stuff like that. Things happen all the time. So you got to be able to have the backup on that. The defensive line, I think we're going to lose Sweat. I think Sweat's going to make some money. Obviously, he went the way of Drew Rosenhaus, so I suspect that Sweat is going to be somewhere else next season, which means that there's going to be a big hole there. Even if Brandon Graham comes back, I feel like Brandon Graham is a 40% snaps per game, defensive snaps per game. Like he's one of the rotating guys. Like that's where a couple of years ago when Cox was doing really well, and then Dominican Sue came in and was doing real well, they were playing somewhere in the neighborhood of 30 and 40% of the snaps, and they were fresh. That's how you got to keep them. You can't have them out there every play. And I think that you're going to need to get a couple of rotation guys, because Huff was not anywhere near what he needed to be. And there's a piece of me that thinks that, if you want to play in this league, Huff, you're going to have to start to conform to Vic Fangio's defense.
This ain't the Jets, Huff.
Huh?
I said this ain't the Jets. If there's a time and place in the NFL. If you want to start playing, you got to get out of the New York Jets mindset.
And there's a piece of me that kind of maybe believe that Hassan Reddick learned his lesson and may want to come back at a little bit of a hometown discount, but I can't guarantee that either. Um, I mean, Nolan Smith was probably one of the most improved players on that defense in general. Just like by the way he was playing, it was an amazing way that he came on even midway through the season and started to do this. We'll have Nakobe Dean back, but I think that's going to be fairly late in the season. Even if he's doing everything he can to get back as early as possible, he's not going to be back until about week 6 or week 8, probably in the middle of the season. So you're going to have to keep Bourne. You're going to have to sign him, and he's going to make some money. Uh, so, and the Eagles have some cap space. It's not like that they are, the one thing that I am 100% sure of is that the capology that the Eagles do is at such a great level in comparison to everybody else in the NFL that they know how to work a cap very, very well.
I mean, they do exactly what the Niners do. Yeah, the Niners do exactly that same thing. Like they find a way to reload, which is frustrating. But
well, the 49ers now are going to be in a little bit of trouble because you're starting to have I want to leave. I don't want to be here anymore. And once you start having one of those, you have more of those.
Yep. Well, and then they also have to figure out what they're doing with Purdy. Like what's the contract offer, stuff like that. So I mean, it's gonna change, but they've routinely found a way to reload even when guys start to leave. So
I don't. So here's the problem with your question, Bob. What would it take to get him? What would you have to give up? And then how much money is he going to cost?
He'll cost at least 20.
Yeah, and we don't need him like that.
Yeah.
I just don't need him like that. Like as great of a player as he is, and as disruptive as he is, I'd rather try to stay with Williams, or figure out Sweat. You know what I mean? Why, if we got somebody who just had 2 sacks in the Super Bowl, why would we need to go anywhere else? We could just pay Sweat and not have him cost $20 million. So, and what's the cap this year? 218, 222, something like that.
It's close to
something like that.
Yeah.
It might be even a little bit higher than that, like 234 or something like that. I mean, when we're talking about somewhere around 10% of your cap space going to an edge rusher, that's a big chunk. That's a big chunk. And I don't know that that's worthwhile right there. I think that you need him to be somewhere in the neighborhood of 14, 15 million.
Well, so they say the cap is 275. That doesn't seem right.
No, that actually makes more sense then. Yeah.
Yeah, because they said the cap is 275 because the Saints are at 337 right now, which is why they're in salary cap hell. Dallas is at 299. And there's like several other teams that are like in the 280 range. And then Baltimore is like at that 269, so they're not going to have a ton of cap space.
So Slay is probably not going to retire. I think Slay is going to want to play another year. I just don't know that he's going to play here. He would have to take some type of restructure to do that. And I think he understands it. I think Slay understands the business of football. And so I'm not sure that I'd like to see him come back, but they're going to have to restructure him to do so. And I don't think he's going to take that restructure, which means that they're probably going to take the cap hit. And if they take that cap hit, they're going to be able to backload some of that because they still had some cap space this year. I think that there was up to I think there was like $8 to $10 million that they could still defer back to this year. So it wouldn't be as big of a deal moving forward if he got dropped. I mean, I wouldn't mind watching him stay. He actually had a pretty good season wasn't like he was getting beat all the time because he didn't have to do everything. He played like the third safety is kind of how he played, which worked for him because his speed is not as there as much as it used to be. He's still a great player though. Still knows how to play the position, and that's where it's going to be.
That would
So
be
yeah,
interesting.
the cap space for 2025 is set. The cap space at 2025 is set for 272.
And how much is that up from last
And
year?
right now the Patriots have 120, just over 10 million. Last year was like 261.
Okay.
So it's
Oh,
like 11.5 million up. But the Patriots have $120 million in cap space. They have
well, that
the
makes
most
sense. You
cap
don't have
space.
any players.
And then you have the Raiders at 92 million are second. The Commanders are third with 78 million in cap space. Then you have the Cardinals at 71, the Chargers 63, the Bears 62, and the Vikings at 58 million. Those are the only
So-
teams that have over $40 million in cap space to play with right now.
Okay.
So, as you say that, when I think of where Garrett could go, the
Commanders. Yep.
Yeah.
Or even the Chargers because he's one of those Jim Harbaugh type players that Jim Harbaugh likes to have.
I could see
Yeah,
that. I could see that.
I guess. I just think that when I look at the teams, I think that if you're going to choose between who's got the better
Oh, they were Commanders
team right
for sure.
now,
Commanders for sure.
Sure.
I could see the
Yeah.
Bears too, just because the Bears did not have a pass rush this year outside of Montez Sweat. Now you put Myles Garrett with Montez Sweat, now you have a pass rush.
Well, and I mean, wherever Garrett goes, he's going to want to win.
Yeah.
So, I mean, that's probably one of the biggest things is he's going to try and make it so he goes somewhere where he can be competitive. I mean, that's why he was talking about wanting to leave anyway.
Yep.
Is because they're not competitive.
yeah,
Lions have 46 million in cap space.
that's surprising.
Yeah, it is.
Well, yeah, look at how many. Because
That's significantly more than I would have thought.
you still have
like,
Hutchinson.
by a zero.
Hutchinson's on. Look how many of those guys are still on rookie deals though.
Yeah, that's
Hutchinson's still on his rookie deal. Jahmyr Gibbs is still on his rookie deal. Laporte is still on his rookie deal. Amon-Ra's extension kicks in this year. Didn't kick in yet last year because he was in that final year last year. They have a lot of guys on defense that still are on their rookie deals yet. Alex Anzalone. Like they don't have any of those big contracts coming next year. The 2026 is when the Lions cap is going to be massive because that's when a lot of their rookie deals are starting to get turned into those extensions.
Yeah, I mean, if you could figure out a way to have Garrett for a year to make the push for the Lions, like I could see
That's why a lot of people think like next year is like if Detroit does not get over the hump next year, a lot of people think it might be the last time they have a shot, knowing how many of those rookie deals are going to be starting to expire after like this upcoming NFL season. Like this upcoming NFL season is their last position that they're in where they have a lot of cap space yet.
Yeah, I mean, that's always true though, right? I mean, windows aren't huge because of the cap.
Yeah.
So I mean, once you assemble a good team, you got a few cracks at it, and then it starts to come apart.
And I did not know the Bills were that bad in cap space. The Bills are actually $14 million over the cap right now.
Yeah, well, some of that is because they were still paying.
Yeah.
They still had cap hits from like Diggs and stuff.
Yeah, the Browns
They restructured, but they ate a lot of that.
Yeah, the Browns are $30 million over, and the Saints are $54 million over.
Yeah, the Saints are,
Where are the Eagles?
man, like
The Eagles are.
That's why
towards
when
the
we were
bottom.
talking yesterday, like they better give Kellen Moore's time.
Yeah, the Eagles are towards the bottom. The Eagles have $18,981,000 in cap space right now.
That's actually not so bad either.
No, I think they're ranked. I think they have the Eagles ranked. They're 21st or 22nd out of 32 teams in terms of available cap space. So they're towards the bottom, but there's like eight teams that are over the cap right now. So
Yeah, but out of every team that's out there, I look at the Eagles having a better opportunity to be able to use that cap space right in comparison to these other teams.
yeah, because you look at the teams that are in the same position as the Eagles. You have the Chiefs that are at $11,500,000 available. Ravens have just under $6 million in cap space. The Buccaneers have $2.2 million in cap space. And then the Texans are the first team that's over the cap space, and they're over by $9,000.
9,000.
$9,047. So
That's
the Texans are over the cap by.
Yeah, all they got to do is just cut the punter, and they're good.
Right.
Exactly. Well, and do you think they bring Diggs back? I mean, so
For
that probably
cheaper-
alleviates that anyway.
For a cheaper price, I think they do. They're not going to pay him whatever he was making last year. I think they're going to make him restructure if he wants to come back.
If he comes back.
Yeah, I was going to say I don't think they bring him back.
Well, it's the final year of his deal this year that he had with Buffalo, because when he was traded, he had 2 years left on his contract. So I don't know what the dead cap hit would be.
So not really. So basically what they did was they restructured it in a way that basically it all hit this year.
Okay, so then they might not bring him back.
So it's that's one of those where this was a contract year for Diggs. And so then all of a sudden, if Joe's still floating around in here, does he try to go play with his brother?
Go to Dallas.
Yeah, but how are they going to pay for him?
Well, the thing is, he might take a discount to play with his brother.
Yeah, he could probably sign for like $5 million to go play with his brother, maybe 6, because he knows he's going to be 33 this year, maybe 34. Yeah. He's not a number one anymore. He's coming off of a torn ACL. He's not going to be a number one probably ever again.
No, exactly.
And realistically, when you look at when he was at his best, before he got to Buffalo, he was a slot receiver in Minnesota because Adam Thielen was the number one. And he had some great years as playing in that number 2 role in Minnesota behind Adam Thielen. So you go to Dallas, you have CeeDee Lamb on the outside who's going to get a ton of attention. You could have a better year there because you're not going to have as much double coverage and as much attention on your end because everyone's going to be on CeeDee Lamb.
Yeah, I mean, if he wanted to move into the slot, he has the opportunity to do that Larry Fitzgerald action.
Yeah.
Where he could extend his career. But he'd have to also stop being a head case.
Yep, exactly. He needs to go somewhere where he's no longer going to be the number one option, I think. Because he's not given like where he is at his point in his career, he's not going to be able to produce at the same level he once did. So if he wants to extend his career, he needs to go somewhere where he's going to be like the number 2 or even number 3 option as the slot because you're still going to get plenty of attention. You're still going to get plenty of targets. You're just not going to be the focus, and you're going to make your body last a little bit longer.
And yeah, Chris, we actually opened with that.
We'll actually have the whole clip tomorrow for you because we want to express how much we love the Cowboys every time we can. So this is Cowboys Network.
Mostly it was just so ridiculous.
Yeah, it amazes me how he believes that, but we will actually hear the whole clip in its entirety tomorrow.
Woo!
Because again, that's the way we feel. It's awesome to think that way. That being said, I mean, it's like, hey, you know, I'm excited, you know, that Dak feels that way. I want him to fully believe that that's the case. Right? Because we all believe in the Dallas Cowboys.
Absolutely.
Whatever floats his boat, right?
We all believe in the Dallas Cowboys because this is their year.
They're all in.
As it is every year.
You know, it's funny, though. I guess that phrase, if you think about it poker style, you can be all in and only have one chip in front of you, right? So if you say it that way, you're like, I'm all in. It sounds
Dak's the poker chip. They're all in.
It's like a power move, but you're like, yeah, that's a $5 chip, man. Like, ain't nobody care about that.
Dak's the poker chip. That's their only poker chip they can go all in with because they paid him all in.
Yeah.
We're all in. Here's our poker chip right here.
That's the one. It's probably,
Say, listen, I have been in a poker tournament where I only had one chip and won the tournament. If you have a chip, you have a chance.
You can battle your way. But you do have to make it to that final table, which they have not.
I remember doing it too. I like had one chip, and I'm like, and she could have called me all in, and she didn't. The girl I was going up against, it was a head-to-head tournament, and she had me on one chip, and she didn't call me all in, and I would have done. I would have lost. The next hand, of course, I went all in and won, and then the next hand I won, and the next hand I won. Next thing you know, I beat her, and then it was yeah, I wound up winning the rest of the tournament. So it is possible.
It is possible.
Not
But
likely. I wouldn't recommend
the odds
it.
are low, which is why it's been 30 years.
And the truth of the matter is that all of those Dallas people who are saying, "Hey, you know, we have 5 rings, do you only have 2?" Well, actually, we have 5 now. Just because you weren't in the league, beforehand doesn't mean that the league didn't exist beforehand.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
We have 5 championships now.
Mm-hmm.
Just saying.
You know, I mean,
Chris,
that's why
I didn't see them drinking with Fallon, but that's
why you always hear the Green Bay Packers are always so home of the 13-time world champions. Well, just because you only have the 3 or 4 Lombardi trophies, you still have all your championships that you won beforehand because it was still a thing.
Yeah,
Right.
sort of.
I mean, there's a reason why Vince Lombardi, the trophy is named after Vince Lombardi.
Yeah,
You know,
it was for Super Bowl.
No, for sure. No. I mean, but a lot of people look at it as they're not quite the same being pre-merger.
Well, yeah, but I mean, your team is still going to count it as a championship.
The problem is that those championships, there wasn't that other league until about like
50s, 40s, 50s, something like that.
Yeah, I think it was.
Even back then, there was only like 8. There's only like 8 teams back then.
No, exactly.
So I mean, you were literally playing the same 8 teams all year. Then the 2 teams that had the best record at the end of the year played for the championship. So I mean, it was pretty much Packers and Bears for the first.
See, there it is. There it is. They don't count. They don't count. Just because you don't count them, Joe, doesn't mean they don't count.
Trust me, Joe. If the Dallas Cowboys had 5 other championships back then before the Super Bowl existed, you'd be counting those on both fingers.
Yeah, exactly. So stop it. Stop it. They used to be called the Dallas Texans, and that team blew. That team blew. All right, Joe. I tell you, if you want to bet your house as an Airbnb for my entire family to go over to Italy, you let me know.
I don't even have a Super Bowl ring under my belt, and if the Vikings had 2 championships from the 50s, you know damn well I'm counting those as championships because that's all they would have. I don't care if the Lombardi Trophy's not in there. I got my 2 championships from the 50s. I'm not taking these away from me.
I wasn't around to see them, but I don't care.
Yeah, that's right.
I wasn't around to see my team play in a Super Bowl, for God's sake.
It might be a little bit before you do.
Yeah, last Super Bowl was 56 or 57 years ago that they were in.
Yeah.
I haven't been around to see them. They were
No,
one of those.
No, they were in like Super Bowl 9, weren't they?
No, they went to what? Their 4 Super Bowls came in like a 6-year stretch. They went to a lot of them like right away, and then they haven't been back since.
Yeah, the Purple People Eaters. Mm-hmm. And Fran Tarkenton. I just remember Fran Tarkenton.
1977 was their last Super Bowl appearance, so they're going almost on 50 years without being in the Super Bowl.
And the only reason why I even know who Fran Tarkenton is because of the show That's Incredible.
Yep, they were in the
80s.
So 1970, 74, 75, and 77 were their Super Bowls. So they went to 4 Super Bowls basically in 7 years. And they
lose twice to the Steelers.
They lost twice to the Steelers, once to the Chiefs, and can't remember, Dolphins maybe? I think the Dolphins was the other one they lost to in 75.
The undefeated season?
Yeah.
Got you. Well, that was 72.
They haven't been back in 50-some years. Yeah, so I mean,
that's why I know one had it been the Vikings and Bills in the Super Bowl would have been interesting because then one of them would just accidentally win.
Yeah, they lost to the Chiefs, the Dolphins, the Steelers, and the Raiders.
Okay.
Got you.
And the only game they had a shot to win was 1975. They lost the Steelers 16-6. It was a 6-6 game with 6 minutes left, and then the Steelers kicked game-winning field goal, and then they had a fumble recovery and put it in for a touchdown late. So they scored 10 points in the last 5 minutes. But other than that, all the games were like 24-7, 34-7, 34-12. So the Steelers game was the only close one they had.
Right on.
Yeah, the Hail Mary. That's how it got called the Hail Mary, right?
Mm-hmm.
Drew Pearson was that. I mean, that's what Starbuck said. He said, I had to throw a Hail Mary up there, and that's how it became named. That Starbuck was the one that named it. And then I guess then they came back with their own, not Hail Mary, I guess, the Hail St. Peter and Paul, because they wound up, the Saints wound up knocking that safety, wound up knocking the other guy off, and Diggs scored the touchdown.
Mm-hmm.
But that's a show. That's a wrap.
All right. Well, that gets us to the top of the hour. That is. Absolutely. If you're watching on YouTube, be sure to like and subscribe. Sorry about my lagginess today. Comcast, you suck. Thanks for playing. And and of course, if you're on Roku, stay tuned for the next hour. Otherwise, we're going to get out of here. We'll see you tomorrow.
Later, guys.
Introducing National Streaming Sports, live and on-demand sports talk programming that you can access 24/7. For the premier sports talk experience, tap into our Roku channel. Start your mornings with Mac and Jack covering all the weekend sports action. Then pour a cup and enjoy all the sports you can drink on the Coffee and Sports podcast. At midday, talk sports from east to west on the Coast to Coast podcast. Followed at night by some hot girl talk with Prim and Proper Sports featuring Sonia Pearson. Talk boxing on the Gloved Fist. Yankee fans tune in for Start Spreading the News. And there's more on the College Sports Huddle and Sports Scope with Robert Butler. There are 20 podcasts in all and 70 weekly shows, giving us a 3.4-star viewer rating. To find us on Roku TV, search for National Streaming Sports on the Roku search bar. Click on the logo and you're in. National Streaming Sports.